For those unaware, Steel Panther are a pseudo-parody hair metal act hailing from Los Angeles. I say pseudo-parody because hair metal has always been one of those genres that seems to do a good enough job of parodying itself without the need of anyone to do it for them. Case in point, look at how many people failed to twig that Spinal Tap wasn't a real documentary. In his book, Hellbent for Leather, Confessions of a Heavy Metal Addict, Seb Hunter notes, metal has always retained a dubious conservative mindset. Black or gay metalers are rare indeed. I'm not claiming the whole metal community are a bunch of Daily Mail readers, heaven forbid, only most of them. This conservatism probably stems from metal's lack of outside stimuli from other musical or social trends. Its bonding conformity tended to squeeze out any progress society might have made since metal's inception. So ever since, it has revolved around the old-fashioned ideals it always felt comfortable with. He later on writes, ask a male heavy metal fan if he believes there's a place within its walls for women, and more often than not, he'll scrunch up his face and reply, yes, on her knees with my cock in her mouth. If you're a more modern metal fan, you may be about to vehemently disagree, but Hunter makes clear that he's referring to the bands and scenes that embodied the genre prior to the explosion of bands like Nirvana. It's clutching at straws to say that such eras of heavy metal weren't notorious for their social conservatism. As this series is focusing on racism in music, I'm not going to delve too much into the sexism that Steel Panther are notorious for. Rather, I'm going to bring up the song Asian Hooker, which is an intersection of both sexism and racism. I'm not going to insult the intelligence of any of my viewers by explaining in any detail why this song is racist. Rather, I'll just link to the lyrics in the description. What's weird about this song is how little resistance it has been met with, making its way into the mainstream. For example, I hear it played at rock and metal nights all the time. The racism of it isn't subtle or something only someone with an in-depth understanding of social science would pick up on. It's the sort of thing even your average old-age pensioner who still refers to people of colour as darkies would find grotesque. As I write this, I can already hear the reactionary cries of, it's just a joke. Of all the responses to criticism of humour that I ever hear, it's just a joke has to be the most asinine. When you say it's just a joke, you're basically saying humour should be immune from criticism, or humour exists in a vacuum. It doesn't. Quite the contrary. Humour is every bit as viable a target for criticism as any of the other creative arts. Humour also pretty obviously doesn't exist in a vacuum. If it did, how would it be funny? In order to work on any level, humour has to reference subjects and objects that the audience is familiar with. This goes back to why I consider Steel Panther a pseudo-parody of hair metal. They're often compared to Spinal Tap, but to me the difference between the two is obvious. With Spinal Tap, the butt of the joke is clearly heavy metal musicians and fans themselves, hence why it was ill-received by a number of such people. For example, Ritchie Blackmore of Deep Purple fame once said of the mockumentary, without a hint of irony, all my amps go to 12. With Steel Panther, the butt of the joke isn't heavy metal or its enthusiasts. Rather, the butt of the joke is women, LGBTQ folk, and, in this case, Asian people. Given as Hunter notes, such groups of society are already as disenfranchised within metal culture as they are outside of it. This doesn't make Steel Panther a parody of hair metal as much as it makes them a pastiche of it. Thanks for watching.